Welcome, everybody. My name is Trevor Callan. I'm the managing partner of AlphaCore. I'm here with our chief investment strategist, Dave Stubbs, and our special guest, Dr. Stein, who's the CEO of Cidara Therapeutics. Thank you, everybody, for coming to this event. And by the way, we're here to witness an incredible story. And what better venue to listen to an incredible San Diego success than this venue out here? This is beautiful. They didn't tell me it was going to be 80 degrees up here in a coat, but besides that, it's fantastic. But anyway, welcome to AlphaCore's series of life science events. This is the first of which, called Under the Microscope. We're dedicated to this space, and this is going to be a series every quarter going forward. And we really appreciate you being here. Want to first thank Dr. Stein for being here. I think Allison Lewis is here from his exec team, as well as Les Tari, who's the CSO. And we all know that you can't do something like you've accomplished without a great team. So thank you all for joining us as well. There's a lot of people here from our firm. Dick Pfister's our CEO in the back. I think we have Brian Abbas, who's our COO. Dave Engel flew down from San Francisco. He runs our venture group, and he's very interested in talking to people about venture finance. We got a very interesting offering at AlphaCore. So please talk to Dave, and he's over there. So there's a lot of guests in the room. I want to give you just a quick overview of AlphaCore. So AlphaCore today is an independent wealth management company and financial organization. Currently, we have 110 employees in 5 states. This is our first and biggest office here in La Jolla. We also have Austin, Texas, Denver, Colorado, Greenwich, Connecticut, and Bethesda, Maryland. I can never say that word correctly. So out of the 110 employees, we have 20 senior partners that own the company, most of which are here. And our clients have entrusted over $10 billion now of their liquid hard-earned capital to our firm, which is a responsibility, obviously, we take very seriously. What makes AlphaCore unique comes down to 3 things. The first, I think, is the most important for this discussion, and it's the fact that we're very, very specialized here at the firm. We don't get out of our lane at all. We're very dedicated to our niche, and our niche is simply working with very successful entrepreneurs that, in addition to that, executives, a lot of which are C-suite entrepreneurs, that have either cash flowed their way to success, or they've gone through some sort of a liquidity event. They've sold a company, they've gone public, they've recapitalized a business, they've sold real estate, stock options, that type of thing. The situations that we get in tend to be quite complex and require expertise that's very specialized. And we're going to talk about this amazing transaction with Cidara and Merck, but that's just an example. There's a $9 billion transaction. There's rule and restricted stock positions. There's RSUs. There's PSUs. There's all kinds of things that need to be dealt with. And you really need experts that have dedicated their careers to understanding the unique nuances that are so specific to that niche. The second thing I think that makes us unique is we spend a lot of time and money over the years building out a true family office. That term has really been thrown out in our industry quite a bit, so I'll try to explain that in a minute. But what we've done is we paired that with institutional quality research here delivered locally. One of the team members is here. We've got 7 CFAs that just spend all day long doing due diligence, research, and you put that together with the family office. What is a family office? What it means for us and our clients day one is we try to serve or try to emphasize that we are their independent chief financial officer, going well beyond asset management, well beyond financial planning, taking care of anything under the financial continuum, whether it be bill payment, tax advisor. We have in-house tax. Tara Deckel, raise your hand. She's the director of our family office, and she gets done anything our clients need to get done. We think about it, our industry has been rolling up, consolidating for years. Most of our other competitors, which, by the way, this is not good or bad, it's just different, tend to be very large national brands that have gone through local markets and purchased relatively small advisory firms that are client-facing, reporting back up to New York, Chicago, to the owners of the business. When you deal with this firm here, the managing partners, a lot of which are here, the owners, the CEO, we're all client-facing, the research team. It's a little bit of a different experience. And these folks have built and sold companies themselves and have over at least 20 years of experience. So it's a truly small organization, even though we're 10 million plus. So switching gears, let's a little bit about AlphaCore. Greg Visconti, where are you? Because Greg helped me out to prepare for this. So Greg over here wrote a book that he sent me some notes on today. It's coming out, Greg, here soon, correct? May 4th. So it's a coffee table book that he's done a crazy amount of work on that actually walks you through the history of life sciences in San Diego. You know, the scripts and the Salks and the UCSD and all the things are in there, and all the companies that have been born from these organizations over the years and the players that are involved. And there's a couple of interesting things that I read in his little email to me today. The first is this industry is relatively new. It's been around for 50 years, but over the last 50 years, now we have 71,000 people that are employed here in San Diego, and the economic output in this industry is $54 billion a year. So this is a big deal for everyone here in the room. San Diego truly is a leader in the industry, and we as AlphaCore, we want to be right in the middle of it, supporting you all with events like this, financially, potentially, getting people involved on your boards. So we're really excited about that. So, and then back to the life science real quick before I leave and get into the program. Les Tari, who's the chief scientific officer of Cidara, and I had a meeting a call, and he told me a couple of, interesting facts about the flu, which is what this is all about. Today, 500 to 600,000 people die from the flu every year. I would not have guessed that. And there's millions of people that are hospitalized, so it's still a big deal. I think a lot of us don't realize how big of a deal the flu is. So get ready. This is going to be an amazing story, San Diego story. And with that, I want to hand it over to Dave Stubbs and introduce Dave. And Dave, let me give you a little bit about Dave's background.
A bit about me?
Yeah, let me do that before.
We're not here to talk about me.
Yeah. Dave is probably the smartest individual I've met. He's new with the firm, relatively speaking. Actually, Dr. Stein, I think, was your first meeting, if I remember correctly.
Absolutely was. A beautiful lunch at Farmer and Seahorse 2 weeks after I joined last July, I think.
So David joined us from Blackstone. Prior to that, he was with J.P. Morgan at the highest levels of those two companies. He has a Ph.D. He has masters in economics. He served the British government as an economist as well as the United Nations. So Dave, thank you for helping us moderate today, and I'll pass the baton over to you.
Sure, absolutely. I think if you hand the mic to Jeff, that would be great. Well, welcome everybody. This is without further ado, we'll get right into it. Jeff, thank you so much for this discussion. I can't wait to read the book about the history of biotech in San Diego, but I'll tell you what, you can't do the history of biotech in San Diego without Jeff Stein, right? 3-time entrepreneur, 3-time successful exit, and you actually started your graduate study right here in San Diego, UCSD, but actually at Scripps Oceanography, I believe, right? And then you did your postdoctoral research at Caltech. Talk us a little bit about what your focus was in those years, and then how did you kind of pivot into life sciences and pharmaceuticals?
Yeah, when I started, my Ph.D. had like many of us who were in an academic path, solely focused on an academic career. And so from UCSD, went to Caltech, was working with the Human Genome Group there. And this was during the period where, that was the big race for sequencing the human genome, and Caltech was an important part of that race. From there, I went to the Agron Institute just down the street here. I don't think it is still stationed there, maybe an office, but very active research team there. I had my own lab funded off of grants. And, in parallel with that was really focused on academic careers, was, shortlisted at several universities, had a job offer at one, but kind of in parallel, there was a biotech company that just started right next door to my lab. That turned out to be Diversa Corporation. And when I was considering accepting this one job offer, they found out about it and they said, well, why would you want to do that? We will pay you probably twice what they're going to pay you. You don't have to teach and you don't have to move. It's hard to argue with.
And you can do whatever you want.
and you can work on whatever you want to work on.
Yeah.
So that was very compelling. And so that was my first foray into biotech.
Okay.
Working for Diversa for about 4 years or so, and then started my first company.
Yeah, and let's get into those companies, because obviously you've got the recent transactions through Cidara. We're going to talk a lot about that. But as I mentioned, that's your third one, right? You had two before. So I'm actually a little confused about the timeline, because I think they seem to happen pretty soon after each other. Take us through in chronological order, just quickly what the companies did and the exit process.
Yeah, so started Corex Pharmaceuticals in 1995, and that was with a colleague who had a lab on the other side of my lab at Agron Institute. Her name is Bonnie Bassler. She was a postdoc there, and we stayed in touch. She went the academic path, unlike me. and she took a job as an assistant professor at Princeton University. And she just does remarkable research. I mean, fast forward to today, she's on the short list for the Nobel Prize. There are 8 predictive prizes that can predict the Nobel. She's won 5 of the 8.
Well, yeah, I feel we've got to get her as the next speaker.
Yeah, she's hilarious. You definitely should do that. But anyway, she had this remarkable discovery called quorum sensing, which clearly showed that bacteria can sense the density of other bacteria in their environment. Most importantly, they can sense the presence and density of the same species. And as it turns out, pathogenic bacteria will, if you get a bacterial infection, it's important for the bacteria to evade your immune system. And the way they evade your immune system is that they kind of turn off virulence factors until they reach a certain specific concentration. That's called a quorum. And they can coordinate then all at once and turn on these virulence factors that make you sick.
Right.
And so she discovered the pathway of doing that, and we would chat from time to time, and she told me about this discovery, and the first thing I asked her, did you file a patent on this?
Yeah.
And she said, yes. I go, okay, we're going to form a company. So that's when I was still at Diversa.
Great.
And we made that decision in 1998 and formally formed the company in June of 99.
Right.
And got some funding. Now, one important thing, if there are other scientists in the office, in the audience here, is that I did not believe I had that I was equipped to be a CEO. So I was CSO and had to find a CEO.
Yeah, because there's a completely different set of skills.
Yeah. It's funny. There are a lot of academic founders who erroneously think that they can be CEO because, I think it's a common occurrence of many, many smart people is you're really smart in one thing and you think it translates to something else.
Yeah.
It certainly doesn't. So hired a CEO and really learned the ropes under him.
Great.
Financing and everything else.
Yep.
And ultimately, we sold CoreX to Pfizer. It wasn't a huge win. I barely would consider it.
A win's a win, buddy.
A win, but
It's a win.
baby steps first.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And so after that, then, of course, you moved to and set up Trius Pharma, right? That was your number 2 one. Talk us a little bit what Trius did and tedizolate. I've got that wrong, haven't I?
Tedezolid, commercial name, Cyvextra.
I got it wrong in the prep meeting. I got it wrong today. Okay. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so the day we closed the deal with Pfizer on CoreX, one of my board members, Brendan O'Leary, he was an investor with Prism Ventures. He said, well, what are you going to do next? I said, well, don't know yet. Maybe I'll start something else. He goes, well, you should check out this Kaufman Venture Fellows program.
Yeah.
And okay, where's the, give me the link and everything. So did that. It turns out, the applications were due in 5 days. But anyway, applied, got
Busy
into
5
that.
days.
Yeah, got into that. Joined Sophie Nova Ventures as a venture fellow. And was responsible for helping them set up their San Diego office. Now, the first location was at Biocom, but then the second location where we eventually moved is just right next door to these offices. So I've got a footprint here, about a quarter-mile footprint here. Spent a lot of my career.
Yeah, you have very, very successfully. And of course, the Kaufman Fellowship, there's tremendous links between AlphaCore and that organization in venture. Dave Engels has tremendous links there. Several other clients and employees as well. What a fantastic organization that is. So, so Trius, how long did that take to get from setting up until ultimately exiting?
Well, in the Kaufman program, it's kind of like an MBA. You have kind of a terminal project. It's 2 years.
Yeah.
My project was to start a new company.
It's a good project.
And that company was Trius, which is an infectious disease company focused on developing a novel antibacterial to fight gram-positive infections like MRSA.
Yeah.
So we took a molecule that we found actually at a preclinical stage in Korea, in-licensed that, and developed that through approval.
Okay.
And that was, just before approval is when we were acquired by Cubist Pharmaceuticals, and 4 months later, Cubist was acquired by Merck.
Merck, the first mention of Merck. We're going to hear a lot about from them in this. Okay, great. So that was just a few years from start to finish.
That's right. Well, I mean, all of them take at least 5 years.
Yeah.
Cidara took longer.
Yes, we'll get into that. And then briefly about Cidara, that obviously you set it up in January 2014. Transaction was just a few months ago, obviously a much longer. And just briefly for those people maybe not up to speed, give us the quick rundown on Cidara, and especially obviously the trial which kind of broke things open for you related to the flu.
14-year journey. I don't want to go through all the details. But we actually was founded on the concept of the application of bispecific immunotherapy to infectious disease. So back then in 2014, bispecific immunotherapy was a very hot topic in oncology. And we were wondering, can we apply kind of the same principles and approaches to infectious disease? We started that project to develop a new antifungal drug. And the reason for that is that was probably one of the last bastions of huge unmet needs for hospital infections. If you get a fungal infection, which are much more deadly than a typical bacterial infection,
sure,
you have many fewer treatment options. If you're a ID doc, infectious disease physician in the clinic, you have a book of different antibacterial drugs. For antifungals, you have a card about the size of that card with about 5 different choices. And so these pathogens are very clever. They can involve resistance. So we started off in antifungals, first applying this immunotherapy platform, but ultimately we developed a drug that just by itself, without an immunotherapy component, was very attractive. We put that into the clinic, and eventually we advanced that to approval in both the U.S. and in Europe.
Yeah, fantastic. So those are the 3 exits there. For those keeping score at the back, that is 1 antibacterial, 1 antifungal, and 1 antiviral. Which
almost an antiviral.
Almost an antiviral. Okay, well, we're close enough, right? That's kind of like the holy trinity. There. I mean, give a round of applause there for extraordinary, consistent and yet diverse, set of innovations that you've been involved with, across the path. I think that now, obviously, sitting here, successful entrepreneur, you look back, did you see any key inflection points? When the companies were maybe, close to failing and things look dark. Do any of those kind of come to mind now, and any advice for people who maybe are struggling through something like that in their own entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, too many near-death experiences. I can give you a good story about one of the first meaningful ones, and that was when we were taking Trius public.
Okay.
This was in 2010. And, those of you who know the process of going public, and back then, it was much different than it is today, where you do it largely on Zoom. Back then, it's all, in
person, yeah. Physical documents.
You're in downtown Manhattan, ready to go out and have these meetings. And when you kick off the process, you're always talking to the bankers. Okay, how many orders do we have in the book? And, the first day, well, no orders yet, but it's early. And the second day, okay, how many orders in the book? Oh, okay, well, we'll let you know.
It doesn't sound good.
Yeah. And in biotech, back then, you had to have an anchor investor who was one of the biotech mafia. Tom Daniels will know who those are, right? That's one of the biotech mafia that you needed to have in your deal, especially in an infectious disease company, was Wellington Capital. And the key point person there, the managing director, was Bob Dershowitz, who was an infectious disease MD. And so we felt, and we were nurturing him and talking to him for many, many months. And so we thought, okay, that's our anchor order right there. And so during the IPO process that was kicked off, one question I always asked, well, where's Bob? We called him Uncle Bob. Where's Bob? And he said, well, we're having, sales team's having a hard time finding him. What do you mean? He can't find him? He's got to be there. And it was like up to the last day when we were about to call it and say, okay, this is a failed process. one of the salespeople said, "Hey, we found Bob."
We found him. Yeah, he was on a beach in Mexico the whole time.
Worse yet, he was in the hospital with a gram-positive MRSA infection. Infectious disease doc, our anchor order.
Got an infection.
And so I actually did the call with him, bedside. And he put in an order right there. and so how ironic is that the key anchor order, and I wasn't responsible for his MRSA infection, but it was a good outcome.
I would hope not. Wow, so it's incredible how things.
But there are many other examples of that type of near-death experience for a company.
I'm sure when you're building a pharmaceutical company specifically, from the ground up, what are the unique challenges that face you in pharma, and how does FDA approval kind of shape the entrepreneur experience? I mean, I think that everyone's heard that term. If you're not anything, FDA approval, I got this FDA approval. In reality, you kind of live and die by that process. Doing that, it must be extraordinarily difficult for an entrepreneur.
Well, you have to learn it from more experienced people that you hire, right? Yeah. Not only on the executive team, but on the board as well.
Sure.
So we had the benefit of very good people in the company and on our board. And it brings to mind another near-death experience, FDA related, also related to that same IPO where...
This is a bumpy road, this IPO.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, this was all FDA induced. So back then, because the guidance was changing on how you assess the primary endpoint on these infectious disease trials, it was strongly recommended that you get a special protocol assessment, an SPA, which is basically a formal, almost binding agreement with the FDA that regardless of how you're going to change guidance while we're in the course of this study, these are the rules by which you are going to measure the primary endpoint.
So they can't pull the rug from under.
Exactly. So that's a many-month experience in doing that negotiation. So we felt it's really important that we kick off the IPO roadshow with that SPA in hand. So we were converging until the point where, there was like 2 open items that we needed to reach agreement on, and we didn't care which way it went. So we thought, on the basis of that, we scheduled the IPO roadshow. So I was in D.C. And met at the FDA office. I figured, there's only a handful of people that need to be here, from the division. But then in walks the head of the office level, which is a much higher level at the FDA. I said, this is not good. And his whole staff, and it was myself, one of our advisors, regulatory advisors, and our head of regulatory. And there was about 14 people on the other side of the table. And he said, unfortunately, despite the fact that we're converging on this SPA, we are unable to reach agreement. Well, what do you mean? We're fine on those last 2. No, he says, well, we're changing the guidance on how you measure the primary endpoint. Well, at this stage, you're about ready to kick off a phase 3 trial. You've lined up investors. I had a plane ticket to Zurich to start right after that meeting. And we got into a shouting match.
Hell yeah, you got into a shouting match.
You realize you're going to kill this company that's developing an important new drug. And he says, well, we can't take that under consideration.
And I probably would have hit him at that point.
And he said, well, the guidance will be made available. What do you mean? You can't tell me what the guidance is now? No, you can't find out ahead of everyone else. It'll be on our website this afternoon. And so went to on the ride from FDA to Dulles. I'm on the phone with bankers and board. And what do you mean you don't know what it is? And both of them are screaming at me. And eventually said, look, we don't know how serious the change is, so let's plan for success. Let's go to Zurich, and I'll see if I can get, download them. And it was like one of those movies where I'm sitting, at the boarding gate, and it's like the last call to board, and I'm downloading the guidance on this really slow internet connection at Dulles Airport.
Yeah.
And you're just seeing how much in their last call to board.
Exactly at the board. Yeah. The loading bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
What did it say?
finally got on the plane. I wasn't able to open it up until we're over Newfoundland, right?
Okay.
And read it as this is so completely different. There's no way we can do this IP.
It was a massive change.
Oh, massive, absolutely.
I thought you were about to say, it wasn't really a change. Everything's fine. I rode off to the sunset, did some skiing in Switzerland. But no, so it was a massive change.
It was a massive change. And so changed my return flight, so landed next morning, flew back, and then had to reconvene the team and the board. And we said, look, we're going to have to revise the entire clinical plan, the statistical analysis plan to reflect this new guidance.
Oh, my goodness.
And so we managed to do that. And I think that the FDA must have felt pretty chagrined because they really expedited the SBA at that point.
Well, it's the least they could do, isn't it?
But we went from a pretty hot IPO window, which was in January of 2010, to a pretty closed window in July of 2010, which is a terrible time to go public anyway if you're in Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah.
We barely squeaked it out, but that's when this whole Uncle Bob Dershowitz element kicked in.
Wow.
So it was like someone up there was trying to kill this company.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but has that process changed? I have a mic. We're sharing two mics.
Has the process changed? With the FDA, yeah. Now it's not recommended that one engages with a SPA. It's a very long and cumbersome process. And the track record shows that the FDA changes it anyway, as we were one of the first representatives of that.
Wow. And so Jeff, when you've got a company growing rapidly, and you've had three of them at various points, take us through a little bit about your leadership philosophy, the importance of the team, and the lessons you've learned about that stage in growth in a biotech company.
Well, culture is very important, and I guess some of the team members who are sitting over here on the groom side are
So take us through, actually, who's over here if people don't know.
We've got Les Tari, our Chief Scientific Officer. We've got Christine, who was our EA for two companies. We've got Suzanne, who was my EA since 2013, right? And Allison Lewis, who you mentioned earlier.
Great.
So she was a SVP of People and Culture.
Fantastic. So it's only invested in that, and a great team.
And we had Karen Connolly, one of our board members, was back there, but I noted she left as soon as I sat up here. So
well, maybe she
was just here for Trevor.
Heard it all before. Yeah, it's nice, and a few snacks, and so obviously the team you built at Cidara has turned out to have been a tremendous group to build and grow a company, and then go through really one of the marquee exits over the last 12 months.
Well, there's a famous book called The $1 Billion Molecule about the founding of Vertex Pharmaceuticals in Boston. And early on in this process, I told Les, who was the primary inventor of CD388 and this drug FC conjugate platform that evolved into CD388, I said, you're going to eclipse that. And he's now the $9 billion molecule.
Okay, well, there we go.
Amazing. Yeah.
There we go. Well, that's a tremendous linkage there.
Dave, out of that our VC fund?
Yeah, is that in the VC fund? Is that in the VC fund? Yeah, apparently so. Great. We'll hold you to that, Dave. So how does the process to sell come about? I mean, that must be in some ways a difficult decision to come to yourself, a difficult conversation, potentially, with involved parties. What were the factors that led to the decision to sell this company?
Well, there's an old adage that remains true, which is companies are bought and not sold. So you don't say, we're going to sell this company and this is how we're building the company. You build the company to be commercially successful.
Yeah.
And you have to have the capital and other resources to be credible in doing that. And so, when we really reformatted Cidara around CD388, we had an opportunity with CD388. We had licensed the global rights to J&J in 2021, and we had to do that because biotech company becomes whatever your lead program is, and our lead program at the time was our antifungal drug, which got approved in the U.S. and Europe, but there was a big phase 3 trial. We were still running a very costly trial We're partnered with a European commercial stage company on that program. But we needed more capital in order to conduct that big phase 3 trial.
Sure,
and so here we had this really compelling, but early stage, it was still preclinical. We ran a BD process, and J&J was very excited about it. They were big in flu. They were trying to develop monoclonal antibodies and vaccines and influenza. And so we did, at that point in time, for a preclinical deal, is very attractive. And so they had global rights. They paid us a nice upfront milestone payments and generous royalties on the back end, which was a source of revenue for us to help fund this antifungal phase 3 trial. So you fast forward there, from there, we were responsible for executing on the, all the non-clinical and 2 phase 1 studies and a phase 2A study. J&J just reimbursed us. On delivery of that data package, clinical data package, they had the option to opt into the program, exercise their right to then take over the program and conduct a big phase 2B and phase 3 study.
Sure.
And at that very time, they had a new head of R&D come in, John Reed, and as all new heads of R&D do, they do a full assessment of the portfolio. And that took about 6 weeks, so it was delayed, even though they had drafted the letter to opt in.
Okay.
And coming out of that, we got notified that J&J is going to be divesting itself of all infectious disease programs. Here's yet another near-death experience.
Yeah, right? That's bad. That's
because
bad for
regardless of all the hand-waving you do, well, it was a portfolio management issue with big pharma. Everyone's going to think that there's something wrong with a molecule. And so the stock takes a hit. And we thought, how are we going to manage through this? We would love to get it back, but we didn't have the financial resources to get it back. J&J had invested tens of millions of dollars in the program, and we knew because they started other processes with other big pharmas. They had an E. coli vaccine, which they divested to Sanofi. Then the next one was a Hep B program, which they divested to GSK. The third in line was CD388. And they started this big pharma process, and that's when we hooked up with RA Capital, one of the biggest biotech investment firms around.
Sure.
And we said, we're going to compete. They're going to provide the capital by anchoring a $240 million pipe financing. And so, but in exchange for doing that, we had to divest ourselves of the antifungal because the pipe investors wouldn't want to continue to invest in a big phase 3 trial.
Right. So they wanted to you wanted to focus on the task at hand.
Yes. So from concept in 2023, this was fall of 2023, when we started that process, we had 3 separate negotiations going on. We had the negotiation with J&J on the acquisition or reacquisition of the asset. Obviously, we had the negotiation with the pipe investors on the terms of the deal.
That's 2.
Those were linked because pipe investors aren't going to give you the money until you get the license from J&J, and J&J is not going to give you the asset until you get the money to develop it, right? So the third negotiation we had going on is that we had to divest Resifungin, our antifungal.
Right.
And what was tricky about that is our partner in Europe wanted it, but they knew that we needed to divest it, but they didn't realize that we had these other negotiations going on, and we could not let them know.
Right. Everything has to be clandestine.
That's right. Yeah. And moreover, we had to land all 3 of those transactions at about the same time, because as a public company, we couldn't, announce that we divested the antifungal drug, Resifungin, without having something to replace it. It would look really silly. We have a source of revenue, we have a source of royalties, milestone payments, and to relinquish that without replacing it with something else.
Yeah, so
it would be.
It's a delicate dance there between these 3 parties, 3 different ways forward for the fund.
And there was so many times when our European partner wanted to accelerate the process, and we didn't. We wanted them to slow down, but we didn't want to tell them we wanted to slow down.
I want you to slow down, but I can't tell you why.
Yeah. But, we ultimately decided, let them get in their own way. which they managed to do. And remarkably, we were able to close all 3 transactions on the same day at the end of April of 2024.
Wow,
So,
busy day.
It was a busy day. Oh gosh, the last thing is we had completely negotiated the license agreement, the reacquisition from J&J, and we did I think a commendable job, which included no royalties back to J&J.
Yeah.
And so it was getting all the sign-offs from the executive team at J&J. The last sign-off was from the CEO. And the CEO told the chief business officer there, said, wait a minute, why are there no royalties in this? Send this back. We need royalties. This was the night before we're scheduled to announce, press releases were drafted and everything.
Got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, fortunately, cooler heads prevailed. J&J wanted to this deal as much as we did.
Okay.
They prevailed upon him. No, this is a good deal. And just leave it alone, and got it done.
Great. And then, so take us through then the next phase, the trial that kind of breaks it all open, and then this bidding process, this extraordinary bidding process you went to which ultimately led to the actual transaction.
Yeah. So we closed the $240 million financing end of April 2024. One of the reasons why I think J&J selected us over the other bidders is we're really, I think, the only entity that was capable of potentially starting a big phase 2B study in the fall of 2024. Because unlike many other programs in biotech, this is obviously defined by the flu season. You have to conduct your trial, when before the flu season starts, you have to enroll a lot of subjects. And this was 5,000 participants we had to enroll. We did not have a clinical operations team who had ever developed a flu drug and knew how to do that. So we had to recruit a new head of clinical operations, and then she recruited a staff. And so from standing start end of April, we dosed our first participant in that big phase 2B study the last week of September, completed dosing of all 5,000 participants the first week of December, which is 2 weeks before the flu season really took off that year.
Okay, well, the timing ended up being good.
It did, and the flu season was the worst flu season in 15 years.
Which helps.
Yeah, you don't want to wish for that, but if you're running a clinical trial, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, exactly. So and so then flu season starts to fade a little bit, like the numbers starting to come. When did you know you had a real winner on your hands? When you were like, when was your when you're looking at the page, you go, are those results right?
Well, you don't know. It's blinded. And so you're getting blinded results. You're looking at the CDC reports on how severe the flu season is. You're looking at, do I have clinical trial sites where these outbreaks are occurring?
Yeah.
But you get blinded results and you can kind of get an idea. And from the statistical analysis plan, you can kind of predict when you're sufficiently powered. So we embarked on this study assuming a mild flu season, which means we did not pre-specify, in our stats plan, a pre-specified p-value, because we had 4 arms of the study. Even though it was 5,000, it was 1,250 dispersed amongst placebo and 3 dosing groups. Really challenging, typically, to get a statistically meaningful result.
It's a high-quality trial,
right?
Yeah.
But as it got more and more severe, and we worked closely with our clinical advisory board members, we decided to roll the dice and say, look, this is a severe enough flu season where let's go back to the FDA. We're still blinded, so we could renegotiate the statistical analysis plan. And we put in a pre-specified p-value. And so lots of tension on the day that the results are disclosed.
Yeah, and so a p-value is a measure of statistical significance.
That's right.
You look at you're looking to get the real sign-off from the data that you've unequivocally had a big impact. And so
and you shoot for a p-value of less than 0.05, which is kind of the statistical standard. And so when we got the results back, our highest dose had 76% efficacy at a p-value of less than 0.0001, which is unambiguously statistically significant.
It worked.
You can
we can say, those are the stats, it worked, right? Okay. Great, and also with very few side effects. My understanding is, right, because that's always okay. Well, you've solved my few, but I've grown a third arm. That's not cool. Like so, but my understanding is very few side effects.
That's really one of the strengths of this approach, because it combines two elements that have already been in people. One element was an existing approved drug called zanamivir, or commercial name Relenza.
Okay.
We modified that and we attached it to a fragment of a human antibody. It's called the FC fragment, which is in all of us right now. So two very safe components that go into CD388.
Okay, sounds like, okay, great.
Yeah. And so, a remarkably benign safety profile, which is exactly what you want.
So take us through the moment when you got the statistical data and when you found that. And what were you at your desk? Did you jump up and shout? Were you at a bar? Did you get another bottle of champagne? I mean, what? Tell us.
There was a lot of champagne, I think I remember.
Okay, great.
And it was one of those OMFG moments when you see that. Because, put this in context, the seasonal vaccine that we all get is on average maybe 40 to 50% effective. It's not universal either.
No.
It is selected based on guesses by the CDC and other groups on what the prevailing strain will be that season. So it's never universal. So for us to get a 76% efficacy rate in something that's truly universal was unprecedented. Yeah, and that, getting to your likely next question, is that obviously that captured the attention of investors. So our stock traded up tremendously. And on the heels of that, we raised another $400 million. And now we're fully funded through phase 3. And that gets to the heart of your original question. How do you decide to sell the company? So this stage, we had the ultimate, in business speak, BATNA, right? Best alternative to a negotiated agreement.
Sure.
Which means we had the resources to go it alone.
Yeah, so you can walk into negotiations and say, I don't need you. I don't have to sell. I can just do this massive phase 3 trial, and I've got people beating down my door. So why do I need you, Merck?
And you still have conversations with the farmers, but we kind of directed it towards business development. Like, it's going to be tough for us to commercialize this in Japan. Nobody does that. And even in Europe. So you start having those discussions with Japanese and European-based pharmas, and basically all big pharmas are European-based as well as US-based. So we started having those, and that's mostly so that you can start educating them on the program. And it's so important to have your banks side by side with you on this and starting that process, because, the way this often works is you have banks are working with the senior teams at Big Pharma. The senior teams talk to the bank, well, what are you seeing that looks interesting? What should we be focusing on?
Sure.
And then obviously they're pointing to us.
Yeah, great, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And so then take us briefly through the actual negotiation. I believe there are 4 bidders, which I think is a healthy number to fighting against it. And I've actually seen the chart of the bids over time, and it really starts to gets a bit out of hand at the end when the values jump up like that. Talk us through maybe just a few of the key phone calls, key moments, and when you knew that obviously Merck going to be successful, that they wanted you so bad that they were going to deliver this tremendous price.
Yeah, and you can look at the public filings called the 14D9 filing, and you can see the details of the progression you just described. And one thing that is notable is, at the beginning, the first bids are testing the process. Mm-hmm. The first bid that we got in was $118 a share, and we were like, I forget where we were, $105 a share or something like that. So you have board members say, wow, that's a pretty good number. Maybe we should go for that. That's a pretty generous premium.
Yeah.
And,
And you were like, you're crazy. That's because far too low. What are you talking about?
Well, you have to listen to them, but then you also listen to the banks. They say, no, we think we can do a lot better. That's just the first bid. There are other interested parties.
Sure.
And then, next bid, came in at $120 a share from a different party, which is great. Yeah. So you go back to the first party and say, well, you're not the highest bidder. So that really catalyzed the process. And as the chart you were referring to, which shows over time how things start to accelerate, right, as they start bidding against one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that final jump for Merck was quite a jump.
The remaining bidders were asking for a best and final, right? So meaning that whoever comes in with the best offer, they get it. And our bankers were very shrewd. They said, yeah, we're going to do that with the proviso that if the top two bidders are within 5% of one another, they will be invited to rebid. You don't have to, but you'll be invited to do so. And so that really got their wheels turned. And then we got inundated, and the bankers like, what's the arithmetic on that? Is it 1.05 times the last,
Yeah, exactly.
And it does make a difference, right?
Sure.
So we settled that, and so it's clear that the bids came in, the highest next, 165. We had 185. At this point, we had three bidders. We had 185, and then we're waiting to hear from Merck.
Yeah.
And Merck came in at 221.50, and that was another OMFG moment.
Sure.
And it was clear that they were betting that there was going to be a competing bid at 210.
Sure.
The 221.50 is 50 cents above the 5% delta.
There we are. Okay, so they thought, okay, great. Well, what a moment that was. Just give Jess a little break. Trevor, I want to come to you just briefly. So, tell us a little bit about
we're sharing a mic tonight, or today.
Yeah, let's tell us a little bit about the original relationship you built with Jeff, and then of course Jeff calls you at some point and says, there's a process here. Like, have you seen the trials? When I gave him that first meeting, you said like this trial is fantastic, the thing is incredible. There's going to be a process, etc. Talk about what you have to do before the actual sale to make sure that anyone who's going through this is set up for success.
So I think the first thing is how surprised we are in our industry that people don't do a financial plan early on, because there's so many opportunities to take advantage of before a transaction or before, announcements happen. And usually what our planners are trying to do is work with our clients and ask them to dream about what life looks like today, tomorrow, and the next generation, and really try to figure out a term what we call internally called critical capital. How much does this family need diversified securely so that they're never going to run out of money? And many of our clients have excess capital, which we can prove specifically they'll never spend their lifetime. And that's where the low-hanging fruit is. Those are assets that we can transfer to heirs, we can do charitable work with, and things of that nature. So I think there's tons of opportunities just in the financial planning process. But the problem that we see is often people wait way too late. They're coming at the last minute. They're looking to set up entity structures. It's just too late. So I remember this process talking to Jeff, and it was crazy. Every other day was a new number.
Well, you didn't mention that we started working together in 2010.
That's right. We're sharing a mic, so I'll repeat what he said. So we started our relationship as back in 2010 Trias days, and followed this all the way through. And I couldn't be more proud, by the way, to see this success, because there was moments during this journey where the stock was. What was the low on the Cidara stock over the years?
Oh, it was under $1 a share.
Yeah, under $1 share. And so usually there's lots of capital gains involved. So we have new investment structures that we can do today that we can provide clients, access to markets, financial or stock markets, et cetera, but generate lots of gains on the back end, losses that we can offset these capital gains with. And we had a pretty good outcome.
Yeah, I think that's obviously the clear takeaway. Even like in the early days of being an entrepreneur, there is a relationship that can make a lot of sense, on the financial side and financial planning side and networking side, and then everything's in place as it should be when obviously the exit comes. Let's take a few minutes now and just look forward, maybe Jeff. To say there are major shifts happening in the life science industry, I think understates all the kind of incredible innovation we're seeing. What are you watching most closely, and what is most exciting to you? And you look forward maybe as to be joined as a board member or some involvement. What's going to get you out of bed and get you excited? In this kind of next era of the biotech and life science industry in San Diego.
Well, on the drive over here, I was listening to your podcast.
Yes, launched today, by the way, people.
Yeah. Talking about the macro environment and the challenges that's presenting to all investors. Typically, biotech is a little bit buffered from what's happening in the macro environment because you have biotech specialists. Sometimes you get generalists coming in, usually when a biotech gets really hot and the macro environment in other sectors go down and you get generalists. It's probably a good thing that we don't have a lot of generalists in biotech right now because they would be the first to flee biotech in the macro environment with the Iraq war and everything else going on, and leave it to smart people like you guys how to figure that out. But I certainly can't fathom how we would bake in the potential for inflation and everything else going on. But within biotech, clearly every biotech company says they have a transformational new drug. You have to really figure out what is truly the transformational new drug.
Sure. Yeah.
And I use CD388 as the standard, something a completely orthogonal approach that is addressing a big problem. It's not just another niche obesity drug, for example. And I'll probably offend some people in this audience by saying that, but yeah, that's the way I approach things. So I'm focusing. I formed a family office to the point of working with Tara and others at AlphaCore, and I'm focusing, working with my elder son Jared. The broad umbrella is impact investing, but I consider biotech to be impact investing.
Totally, yeah, and that's obviously something that we've tried to help out with impact investing. Fascinating space. I think briefly, to phrase it another way, is that we absolutely believe in AlphaCore about investing for the long term. We believe about having uncorrelated themes in your portfolio, things that are going to hopefully work through economic cycles and are not overly dependent on how strong earnings is or where the Fed is or what's happening with the dollar. And certainly when you get biotech right, and that's not easy to get it right, but when you do, that's the kind of opportunity that biotech presents. And if you have a few of those things in a portfolio, the magic can happen of compounding over time and less sensitivity to the headlines that we get every day. Just finally, my final question before we pivot, to life science cares. What's your main piece of advice for emerging founders and leaders in life sciences?
Hire a good CEO. I think I did. If you're on the technology side, just be receptive to learning.
Yeah.
I think it was Jack Welch at GE who said A players hire A players and B players hire C players. You want to hire A players because that's going to be the death of a company if you start hiring C players.
Sure. And absolutely, again, there's a little bit of a link here, I think, here with AlphaCore. We try to put a great team around clients. We know we have specialists across the wealth management, the investment side, trust and estates, family office services as well, and that's we can help you. Okay, great. Well, that's kind of the main part of the discussion left there. Trevor's going to move out, and can I welcome Alicia to the stage, please? Round of applause for Alicia. Alicia Titagawa, who is Executive Director of Life Science Cares. This fantastic operation. So you've had 20 years of experience in both the non-profit and profit private sectors. Served as the Vice President of United Wave San Diego County. Previously served as Director of Programs for Mission Edge as well. You implemented a corporate social responsibility program for Qualcomm, I believe. You are a JP Morgan alum, as am I. Fantastic. There as well. And you have a master's in social work and social enterprise administration from Columbia University. Now, we're going to talk about Life Science Cares. Jeff's involved as well. Do you want to give us a rundown on what the organization does, its history, and its key focus here in San Diego?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this invitation. So Life Science Cares is a philanthropic organization. We were founded in 2016 in Boston by Rob Perez, who I believe was on one of your boards,
He
right?
was one of the first calls, yeah.
That's right. And in 2020, we had the blessing of being able to open up a Life Science Cares here in San Diego at the leadership of Tom Daniel, who's here, and then also with the partnership of Jeff Stein and others, including Karen Canali and some others. So since 2020, we have really activated the life sciences community, individuals, leaders of the industry, as well as corporate partners, local companies who come together with the mission of disrupting poverty in our community. And, just listening to the past few minutes of this conversation really helps to reinforce in me the uniqueness of life science cares in this industry. The word, some of you, who are on my board have probably heard this a million times, but the Greek root of the word philanthropy means love for humankind. and to be listening to, Jeff's story and knowing that there's so many other stories here about the incredible work that leaders and companies in biotech and life sciences are doing. And the reason why you all got into the careers that you got to is because you have a love for humankind. And in your day jobs, you're finding interventions and treatments and vaccines and cures. And to be able to transfer that out of your day job into the community to help, some of our most vulnerable neighbors here in San Diego really is such a gift. So Life Science Cares, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We activate the financial, human, and social capital of the life sciences industry to disrupt poverty through education, economic opportunity, and basic needs. The nice thing about being part of the biotech community is that we have a lot of very financially savvy people in our network who reassure me or help to reassure me that our grant making is going to the most effective, sustainable, and scalable organizations who are making the greatest impact in our community. To date, since our inception in 2020, we have granted more than $5.6 million out to 20 organizations and awarded scholarships as well. This past year, we were able to disperse $2 million into the community, which included about $320,000 in rapid response grants to organizations that were affected by the changes in federal funding. So some of our nonprofit partners experienced pauses or cuts to some of their social service programs and their funding, and they really were at risk of needing to close their doors or not being able to serve the people that were in the most need. So Life Science Cares was able to come in and do that through our grant making. The human capital piece is our volunteerism. So we activate, the time and the talent of our nonprofit or of our network to help our nonprofit partners build capacity and to further their missions. And that takes place in different forms. So we have teams of companies. So we had a team from Norellis, as an example, yesterday get together and they packed food at Feeding San Diego for the afternoon, which goes directly into the hands of the mouths and stomachs of, families who are experiencing food insecurity. We also provide access and exposure to the life sciences industry for students who don't otherwise have that. A lot of the students and the children who we serve are first generation, low income, coming from low income families and neighborhoods, and they don't have the support and the resources that are needed oftentimes to get that foot in the door. So we are committed to providing both a window but also a door to students and children in our community to see what a career pathway in life sciences could be. And as we all know, that could be life-changing. So that's the human and the social capital piece.
That's great. Jeff, do you want to give us a few words about how you're involved? How did you become involved, and what do you do today for Life Sciences Cares?
Yeah, when we started Cidara, one of the first people I called was Rob Perez, who was the CEO of Cubist Pharmaceuticals, who acquired Trius, the very high-quality guy. And so approached him to join the board of Cidara, and I think he was one of the first calls that I made. And he said, well, happy to join, but probably for a relatively short period of time, a couple of years, as I'm starting up this new thing, which was Life Science Cares. The very first office was opened up in Boston, and then there's Philadelphia, San Diego. I had the fortune to team up with Tom Daniels and Rich Heyman to help put that together. And joined the board at a very early stage. So, it was a fun ride. When going through all the travails that I described with Cidara, I stepped off the board because I had to focus on Cidara. But fortunately, they had many more qualified people who joined the board.
Okay, great. Alison, do you want to quickly tell the audience how they can get involved with Life Science Cares?
Absolutely. First I want to thank you for your tremendous support of the organization. We have a couple of different ways in which you can get involved. You can become a member of our board of advisors, and I see some of them here, Mia and America and Greg, and others here. Our board of advisors are a group of committed leaders of the life sciences industry who really make a difference by giving to and through life science cares financially, but then also roll up your sleeves and provide volunteerism. And the volunteerism can be different, lots of different ways in which you can give your time and talent. You know, I mentioned like packing food at Feeding San Diego, but we also have skills-based opportunities. So we have incredible nonprofit leaders who oftentimes just don't have the business acumen or experience or resources to bring on like a biotech CFO or CEO. And so we help deploy that time and expertise into the nonprofits, and they can help with scenario planning or strategic planning, things of that nature. We also have a summer internship program called Project On-Ramp. So this is a great opportunity for students who are Pell Grant eligible. So they're low-income students. Most of them are first generation. They are all college students. These kids are whip smart. They are so motivated, and they are hungry for opportunity. And I can tell you, if you give them an opportunity for 9 or 10 weeks at your company, they will, the return on the investment in them is absolutely tremendous. So we help to connect college students with opportunities in life sciences, and it can be across the industry and across job functions. So we have students who spend the summer in the legal department at Dexcom. We had students in the human resources department at Avidity, and then obviously in the labs. And some of our service partners take on interns as well. So if you're interested in that, I'd be happy to discuss. We have corporate partnerships. So if you have a company who you want to engage your employees in volunteerism and giving back, that's a great opportunity as well. And then we have a leadership circle, which we launched last year. And that is really a sustained commitment to life science cares and to our broader community. It's a commitment of $50,000 or more over 5 years, comes with a range of benefits, if you will, which are really, being able to get more engaged in the community and to create community with like-minded life science leaders and investors. So we have an impact breakfast on June 9th. I invite all of you to come join. Check out our website or come talk to me after, and I'll send you an invite. It's a great way to really see our impact in action. And we would love to have you all join our community of life science cares.
Well, that sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for taking us through that. Well, we've pretty much come to the end of the formal part of the event. We'll be hanging around if people want to ask Jeff questions. Friends, Jeff tells me that he's changed his status on LinkedIn to retired.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, I for one, Jeff, hope that you don't retire. I hope whether as a CEO or a board member, you go after some horrible disease and find another cure for the 4th time. We'll come back and hear about that in a few years. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our speaker, Jeff Stein.